Hello everyone, I hope it's going well. This week we're reading and talking about theme, and theme is defined generally as a big idea about life that the author wants to express. And there are a number of different things about theme to think about. There are a number of different ways that an author can express theme, but it's really that idea about life that a story wants to explore. Stories can have multiple themes. There's very common themes in literature and in stories in general. I'll show you some of those. This week we got 3 stories with, I think, some fairly transparent themes. But once you've found what the big idea is in a story, you have to do a little more work than that. And I want to talk about what to do once you've found that big idea about life. So first of all, let's just go through this PowerPoint. We've got theme, what is it, how do I find it, and if I find it, what should I do with it? So theme is the general idea or the insight about life that the story reveals. It's what all the happenings and the events add up to. It's the center, the moving force, the principle of unity. I've also heard it described as the shade that a story casts. And if you can imagine, say, a tree, and then you got the sun. The sun is us, we're the readers, we're looking down on that tree, which is the story, and then what's left behind, that shadow, that shade, reflecting from the tree, off of the tree, is what the theme is. It's what the story has to say about the world we live in. We got some pictures here. We can probably pick a theme for this, an idea about life. This could be about the beauty of nature, about romance. Once you've found that theme idea, and this is the really challenging thing with theme, we can read a story like The Things They Carried by Tim O'Brien, which is set during the Vietnam War. And we can certainly see that there's a theme of war, there's a theme of being a soldier, there's a theme of being at war. Once we've found that idea about life, this is where theme gets challenging. You got to figure out what the author is trying to say about that big idea. So I see a theme of war in The Things They Carried. Well, then what is the author, Tim O'Brien, trying to express about war? I see a theme of friendship. And this is what it means to say Phoenix, Arizona, Victor and Thomas coming back together and becoming friends. Well, what is the author, Sherman Alexie, trying to say about friendship? I see a theme of family in The Interlopers. We got Ulrich, we got Georg, we got these 2 guys who've been fighting for 3 generations over a piece of land. Their families have been making them do it. Well, what is Saki, the author, trying to say about family? And that's where theme gets a little challenging. To figure out what the author's trying to say about the theme, we gotta look at the parts. And those parts are going to be character actions, character thoughts, character names sometimes. For example, and this is what it means to say Phoenix, Arizona, I'm always fascinated by the fact that we find out Thomas's Indian name. Thomas builds a fire. We get some other names throughout the story. Lester falls apart. Norma many horses. For Victor, we don't find out anything. We just hear his name, Victor. No Native American name attached to it. And that might tell us something about who Victor is and how connected he is to the community around him, how connected he is to his own family, how connected he is to his heritage. So, and even Thomas builds a fire. Fires are a symbol oftentimes for knowledge, for truth, for ideas, for light, for life. And Thomas might be bringing those elements to Victor's life. So we looked at character names. We look at the title. We look at the setting. And we know what the setting can be used to do, right? It can tell us about character. It can be a symbol. It can be connect to theme. It can function as an antagonist. It can even set the mood. We look for symbols. We'll be talking about symbols next week. Symbols are items, generally, physical items that represent more than their literal self. But we can also have symbolic actions, things that characters do, and then point us towards the big idea, the theme of the story. Dialogue is huge, what people say. I usually try to isolate 1 or 2 lines of dialogue that connect to that theme idea. when Thomas tells Victor, Victor's, talking about what he's going to be doing with the ashes, and Thomas is talking about what he's going to be doing with the ashes. They both find that they're going to do the same thing. They're going to dump them in these waterfalls. Thomas's idea is that Victor's father will be reborn into a salmon and be set free. Victor says something much more modern and much more pointed towards psychology, which he says, I'm going to dump my father's ashes into the waterfall. It'll be like letting go. It'll be like cleaning out the attic, creating some space. And Thomas says to him, you know what, cousin? Nothing ever stops. Nothing stops. And Thomas is saying there that your connection to your heritage, your connection to your family, your connection to your culture is never going to end. Even if you fall back from it, you can still always access it. Nothing stops. Now that line of dialogue might point to something that Sherman Alexie is saying about culture, about heritage, and about family. And this is what it means to say Phoenix, Arizona. So look for dialogue, and then of course any other important sentences. I think I got here some common themes, and there's a website where you can see a lot of these. But here we got just some real common themes in movies and in stories, things that we're going to read this semester, but things you've already, I'm sure, come across. Things like family, death, war, loyalty, happiness, friendship, guilt, human relationships. The American dream is a big one in American novels and American short stories, and even something like heritage, which I think we've seen already in something like everyday use. All right. So that's what we got for theme. Now this week you're reading 3 stories. Bounty by Diane Cook. That's a handout. It's a strange one. Prepare yourself. It envisions a world where water has risen. The oceans have risen. They've taken over the land where our narrator lives. And there's only 2 houses standing. His house and his neighbor's house. And it's really a fantastic story that asks the reader to consider what kind of decisions they would make in that situation. Bounty. It's part of this, I would say, newer genre of writing called cli-fi fiction, climate change fiction, where authors envision what the future looks like during this period of climate change. Now this one, Bounty, I'm good friends with the author, and I have it on good authority that she was actually envisioning Portland, Maine when she wrote the story, and in particular a house on the Western Promenade. If you've ever been in Portland on the peninsula, there's an Eastern Promenade and a Western Promenade, and she was imagining one with these huge pillars out there on that main road in the Western Promenade. The second one we have is a very classic story by Tim O'Brien called The Things They Carried. Some of you might have read this in high school. There's a book called The Things They Carried, which is a collection of about 10 stories. This is one of those stories in that book. It's probably the most famous of them. And Tim O'Brien was a young man when he went to the Vietnam War. He served 2 tours of duty, came back, became a novelist and a writer, and has written extensively about his experience in Vietnam. And this is a story in that experience. It has some very, very interesting character names. As you're reading it, pay close attention. You might find some meaning in those names. And then finally we have another Sherman Alexie story. He wrote, this is what it means to say Phoenix, Arizona. The story we're reading for this week is The Lone Ranger and Tonto Fist Fight in Heaven. It's a story about a young man who's moved from a reservation to Seattle and is living there trying to make a go of things. So we got 3 stories. Pay attention to the big ideas about life. You also have a quiz and a discussion, both due on Sunday. I hope you're doing well, and if you have any questions, concerns, please always feel free to reach out. Take care.